Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Campaign Corner. My name is Sherry Wassell, and with me today is Christian Acosta. He is running for the 21st District in the great state of Florida for the U.S. Congress. Christian, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Sherry. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. We're always happy to support candidates like you. So let's start by having you tell our audience what led to your decision to run for Congress, and then what is the biggest challenge that you're facing so far?
Oh, sure. Um, I'll give you a little bit of the longer version, but I went to work in Pennsylvania after I got my first job was there. I'm a nuclear engineer. I went to University of Florida, so I didn't have too many job choices. They had to be in specific places, and one of them was Pittsburgh. And I was working there for a while. I met my wife. We got married, and this was around the 2016 election time. And I was very excited during the primaries. I voted for President Trump in the primary. I went to one of his rallies in Pennsylvania. And one of the things I noticed at the rally was everybody in the rally, every man that I went and talked to was a union worker or ex-steel worker, Democrat. And I asked
Wow.
them, hey, I was surprised at first, why are you here? And they would just look at me and without any taken aback, they would just say, hey, look, this is the only guy who's speaking for us. And at that moment, I was really excited because I said, this guy gets it. He's going to widen our tent. He's going to finally solve problems. He has a can do problem solver attitude, and that's really what we need. And, fast forward 4 years, almost 4 years, and we haven't been supporting as much. He's gotten a lot done virtually by himself. So
Yeah.
a couple years ago, I had the chance to move back to South Florida. This is where I grew up. I went to middle school and high school here, and I had a chance to move back, rejoin where my parents are, bring my wife with me, and I said, look, now since we've made this change, I have a chance to get involved, and I really wanted to step up because when I was growing up in South Florida, I had every opportunity. My parents worked really hard. My dad's a Puerto Rican Air Force veteran. He was in the U.S. Air Force for 25 years. My mother's from Argentina. She has a small business here. She's run for 20 years plus now. And they work really hard so that I could do anything. And my childhood was really optimistic. I could have any future. I could even become a nuclear engineer, right?
Yeah,
Who does that? But I had
that's
the chance to
incredible.
do that. And I just don't see that optimism anymore. I see nothing but negativity on the news. A lot of my friends, they get degrees and they don't even work in the field, but not for their own fault. They just couldn't get a job. And it's not what I remember having when I grew up. And I said, this isn't right. We need to step up and solve these problems. We need people to have this optimism, have this positive outlook. And I know that the president's doing a lot of actual developing the economy and physically getting things done, but he needs more help because clearly Congress hasn't been doing anything but getting in his way. So I decided I'm going to step up. I love South Florida. This is where I grew up, and I really want to help. And now's the right time. So that's what brought me to it.
I agree about the timing. In 2018, this district didn't even have a Republican challenger. And, it is very dark blue, but I think that if ever there's a time for a traditionally blue district to turn red, the time is now. And got President Trump on the ticket.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
So,
thing. The district has a lot of Democrat registration, but it also has 30% independents.
uh-huh.
That's a huge number of independents, and a lot of the registration from Democrats is kind of the registration mill. I know, for example, like they showed up at the airport to register people from Puerto Rico coming to Orlando. The people registering have no idea what the party's about. They were just there to register them. So it's not that some of these votes can't be won. And if you have a candidate who's local, who has a varied background, who can bring people together, I think we have a real chance of winning the district and going and getting things done. I just don't think it's reasonable for people to have to vote for somebody who's literally telling them, well, I hate that guy who's president. I'm not going to do anything with him. And therefore, they're admitting that they'll get nothing done for 2 years. They're telling you for the next 2 years, I will get nothing for Palm Beach County. Because if you're not going to work with the president, why is he going to work with you, right? So don't vote for that. Vote for who you want for president. I hope you vote for Donald Trump. But if you don't, I pledge to work with whoever you selected because my first job is to benefit Palm Beach County. And that's
Sure.
not what the other side says.
No, not at all. So when you're out in the field and you're talking to voters, what's it like? Are you hearing from a lot of Democrats still? Are you talking to the independents? Do you think you'll get a huge Republican turnout? Do you think you'll flip the Democrats? Just, kind of what is your feel for the field right now?
It's difficult. When I go talk to voters, it's obviously I have no idea who I'm talking to. If I go to, say, like a Publix Plaza, I get any type of voter. And I've spoken to a good number of Democrats. So when I go out for petitions, about a little over a third will actually sign my petition. And they'll say, everybody deserves a chance. A few of them will sit there and they'll ask me questions, and they'll ask me about policies on, like the environment, because I have some good ideas there, or about energy. And they actually get information back that you could see they're sort of involved because they don't hear the standard response they're expecting. Um, Probably most of them will sort of say, "Oh, hey, I don't want to sign your petition," but they're pleasant about it. They just sort of walk away. They don't want to interact with a Republican. Okay. And very, very few. I've had two people who were just like lunatics who started yelling at me. But out of
I
all of
hope,
the people I've talked to, only two, that's pretty darn good. So I'll take it.
yeah,
I definitely think that there are a certain number of Democrats who will consider, if I can go out there and show them that I'm an honest guy, which I am, this is my community, I just want to help and I have some good ideas, there's a certain number of Democrats who will vote for the good idea that they like. They may not vote straight down the ticket one way or another, but they'll consider individual candidates. Certainly, all of the independents are going to be like that. Almost all the independents listen, ask questions, they have their key issues, and they're all willing to listen to you if you sit down and you have a normal person approach as opposed to just yelling political slogans back and forth.
sure.
They'll definitely listen, and I think the Republican turnout is going to be very high. The president has already proven elsewhere in North Carolina that getting the Republicans out to vote is going to happen. We're going to come out in big
Yes.
numbers for sure. So
That,
the
that
outlook is difficult, but it's very, very possible.
Good, good. That's great to hear. So, one of the issues that I know you're passionate about is education and choice. What are the choices for education? What options do you think should be available to the students in Florida?
Well, I'm of the general position that the more options are available, the better you're going to have a person able to empower themselves. Because I understand that not everybody knows what they want to do. And I understand that education, as you grow older, it changes, your needs change. But the bottom line is still, if the person doesn't know what they want to do, you're not going to know what they need to do either, right? It's arrogant to say that we should have a one size fits all process. And we kind of do. If you think about it, everybody goes to a high school, and the high school's main purpose is to prepare you for college. It's not even to teach you like how to balance checkbooks and stuff. It's go to college. Okay, well, I hope everybody is able to, but if that person doesn't know what they want to do, is high school preparing them for their next step properly? I don't know. For me, choice in all regards is best. It doesn't solve all problems, but it does help. So, for example, school choice earlier on for elementary and middle school, we need to support that. That's primarily state level stuff, but if there's anything I can do from the federal level to support the states in doing so, I will do it because we've already seen how important that is. There's plenty of underprivileged areas and minority areas, and they love school choice because they get to choose where their children are going to middle school. And you see it all over in Florida. It's been very successful here. So I definitely want more of that. In high school, as best possible, I want to see some level of improvement in how many vocational, trade, and ROTC programs are available for students in high school. The idea is let somebody see what the options are and then they can decide what they want to do. Many people want to go and work in a trade. And then nowadays on the internet, you can always come back to studying. We teach online courses. I don't personally teach online courses. I'm a classroom professor, but there's plenty of online courses like through Palm Beach State College and all kinds of other universities. And the bottom line is, if right now you want to go learn a trade, then you can come back 3-4 years later and get a new certification or a new degree. There's no right way to do it. What's the right way is the way that helps you benefit your life and your family. And the last thing that I want to mention, it's really important to understand that there's a lot of students who go through education, middle school and then high school, and they've had a really negative experience. And it's not only their fault, it's just the whole system hasn't worked for them. And they in their mind, and I know a lot of people don't think about this, but you have to. They in their mind don't believe that education works for them. And it's because the environment has been so negative for them. If they just drop out of high school, we haven't helped them at all. So the point is, maybe if there's options in high school that spark their interest because they like this class or they like that vocational or they like the idea that, hey, I can spend the last 2 years of high school and get credit towards a certification that I can immediately go use, maybe we serve some of those students who otherwise would have just dropped out. So that's the type of way we need to think, because I think high school dropout rate's one of the key indicators of poverty. or rather one of the key things that trends with poverty. And we need to address it. And you don't hear anybody talking about it, which is, to me, a criminal thing. Not like legit crime, but congressmen not serving their people. That's how you start to help communities raise themselves up. You start focusing on why are things like high school dropout rates high. And
Sure.
that's type, I can't say this is the answer, but I know for sure that there's at least a few people I've met in my life who, if they had seen vocational options at whatever level, or more options at 2-year universities, or more support for 2-year programs, they would have taken a path different than what ended up happening. And that's the way we need to approach this stuff.
Very good. Very good. So healthcare costs is another huge issue. What is one of your ideas that you have?
Uh,
You're
I
laughing.
Until recently, I was an adjunct. I was a part-time professor. Recently, I got into a grant position that was full-time. Just an example, to go back to the previous problem, just an example of how things are different in Florida. And this was all good. I'm not complaining about it, but I'm just showing you in Florida, um, in the last few years, the 4-year institutions got automatic increases to their budget, but the 2-year institutions had a generous, but had to apply for a pot of grant money. All right. It was a large pot of grant money, so I'm not complaining. They did a good job overall. But the point is, 4-year and 2-year still got treated differently. And in my mind, that's sort of defeating the point. The point is, all educational programs are part of the same mission, and we should be supporting all of them. So I recently got a full-time position as a result of one of those grants. And now I have healthcare coverage through the position. But before then, as an adjunct, I was on a marketplace plan. So I know exactly what the Affordable Healthcare Act's affordable healthcare was about. I had for myself, 30 at the time, 35-year-old male with no health problems and no pre-existing conditions. I paid close to $5,000 a year in insurance premiums, and that gave me the honor of a $7,000 deductible, and I had to pay, $70 every time I went to MedExpress or whatever. So, you know, and I didn't qualify for subsidy. If you're making above like 30 grand, you don't qualify for a subsidy. I forgot the exact number, but the idea is my medical bills could easily be $12,000, and I could be pulling in 32, 34,000. That's affordable. In what world is that affordable? This was how it was sold to us. Healthcare, whenever somebody tells you they've got the magical silver bullet for healthcare and it involves one great, this fits everybody plan, they're full of crap. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line. The very first thing I can tell you is the Affordable Health Care Act, where it said only certain competitors can compete within states. Absolutely, the minute you see anything that smells of monopoly, run the other way. So the very first thing is that regulation is starting to be pulled back, but the point is that needs to go. We need to have as many competitors. We need to work on price transparency any way we can, which is tough, and it sounds like a vague answer, but it's important. Everybody, I don't know how many people have gone to like a diagnostic center of America or something like that, and they've gotten an MRI from this sort of separate provider, and the MRI probably costs about $300 to $350. But you've heard in hospitals and on TV shows and everything where MRIs cost thousands of dollars. It's the same machine, it's the same scan, mostly. So the point is, why is there a difference in price? That's part of the problem. We have
Sure.
no idea how hospital prices are. Has anybody ever gone to a hospital and then received like a bill from the hospital? It looks like every single thing in the hospital was a private subcontractor charging you their
Yes.
own bill. Like the receptionist had their charge, and the nurse had their charge, and the guy who brought you a pen had their charge. That's the way they structure it, and it's purposely meant to be impossible to understand. That helps them keep prices. I don't know if that's the intention, but it's part of the result.
I
That
think it
helps.
is.
That
I
helps.
think it
Yeah, it
is.
might
Just
be.
like
It
the
might
way they
be.
write the bills in Congress, they're so
Exactly.
convoluted and difficult.
So,
They're hard to read. You just get mad and want to throw it.
exactly, but that helps keep the prices very high because no one can really attack what's the price structure. So we need more transparency. We need as many competitors as possible. I do think we actually are on a decent path where we still have the marketplace plans existing, but you're no longer required to have one. So you're starting to see more options. It's not perfect, but the transitionary period is at least showing us more things. You're starting to see like Medi share plans. You're starting to see other types come up, and that might lead us towards a solution because the hint is this: no congressperson is going to come up with the plan on their own. It's not going to
Right.
exist. It has to be a collaborative effort.
Mm.
One other thing that I do want to mention is I do also believe it's for some reason we stopped talking about it, but I do also believe that there should be limitations on what lawsuits can be leveraged against hospitals and
Oh,
malpractice.
yeah.
I don't think it helps. Everybody always says, well, we need to take money away from the super wealthy and help everybody. Okay, so instead you're going to allow one person to sue a hospital for $40 million and we all pay for that. It's the exact opposite, right? A little bit of
Yeah.
hypocrisy there. There should be reasonable limitations on what lawsuits can be, because most people don't realize doctors pay about 20% of their income in malpractice insurance.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then who do you think
Well,
pays the doctors? You do. It's not some person in government. You pay them.
right. Well, it sounds like you're really ready to work with President Trump on the issue.
Yeah.
And I remember him talking about healthcare when we very first, started the repeal and replace process, and how he said if you change one little thing in one area, then it shifts something in another area, and
Yeah.
it's just really, really difficult. So I'm really glad to hear that you recognize that,
Yeah.
and
I do want to say one thing just to give him credit. I'm
yeah,
very ready to work with him because he's also shown that he's pragmatic. He's willing to look at many
yes,
different solutions. For example, I personally, and this may not be what everybody wants to hear, but I personally believe that out of all of the negative from the Affordable Care Act, the one good thing that came out is I think we have a consensus now in the country that we should do something to provide options for people with pre-existing conditions who otherwise would never get health insurance. I
very
think
good.
that does need to stay.
Yes,
How makes all the difference in the world. The details matter. But
yes,
President Trump has already said, despite what they lie on TV, he's already said that he wants any solution to maintain pre-existing condition coverage. So that
yes.
to me is that shows leadership, and I'm very excited to work on that.
Well, that sounds great. Well, I sure appreciate you coming on the Campaign Corner with us today.
Thank you.
And tell us how people can follow you on Twitter.
Um, the easiest way actually is to go to my website. It's
Okay.
www.voteacosta.com. And on that website, you're going to hear interviews. If this is okay, I'll put up a link to this interview as well.
Oh,
You'll hear
yeah.
me on radio. I was on Joyce Kaufman, a bunch of different shows. You'll also get to see all of my positions on a number of issues. And there's big buttons to take you directly to Facebook, take you directly to Instagram, take you directly to Twitter as well. So that's the
Wonderful.
best thing, voteacosta.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for coming on with us. And we will be back with more great candidates for you on the Campaign Corner. So we'll see you
Thank you
next
very
time.
much, Sarah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Goodbye.
Take care.